So right now, and I've told President Trump this, I said, you need some wins. You need some wins on the column. And the bottom line is infrastructure. I don't know a Democrat or Republican that doesn't have an infrastructure problem. That's some commonality. I don't know a Democrat or Republican doesn't have an addiction or an opiate problem. That's something we could cure. It's a silent killer. It doesn't pick Democrats or Republicans or liberals or conservatives. So once you find that and get a start, we've been so far apart for so long, we've got to find something that brings us together. Healthcare is not it. We know that. And why they went down that rat hole, I have no idea.
What are the lessons you take from that rat hole?
Well, I just said this, that basically right now, I can tell you, as Democrats, from me to Bernie Sanders, okay, that's a pretty big wide swath. There's no way that we're going to vote to repeal. Okay? That's not the bill that I would have voted for if I was here in 2009, but we've got it. And it's done, and it's basically integrated in. My hospitals, my rural clinics, all of them would collapse if you take that away. I got too many people. Now, I've said this. You know, you can buy a box of Cracker Jacks, open it up and get the prize inside, and there'll probably be an instruction how to use it. We gave 20 million people health care, not one word of instruction how to use it. So you tell me there's not some savings there, some energy savings, efficiency savings, and then on the top end, you can't give $575 billion in tax cuts to the people that need it least. And then you have $880 billion of cuts where the people that need probably more help. And think that we're going to come together on that. So I said, get repeal. Quit talking about repeal. Talk about repair. You tell West Virginians you're going to repeal something, that means you're taking it away. You tell them you're going to repair it, that means you're going to fix it. Now you tell me psychologically which one works.
You know, Governor, Senator.
See, we got him doing it.
You know, you got me doing it. If the House had passed this bill, you know, at 208 in Tom DeLay fashion, 3 a.m. in the morning, 217 votes, it would have landed in the lap primarily of Senate Republicans. And you know, it was a bill that would have passed entirely on a party line basis. Would that have given you anything to work with, even if it had gotten through the Senate and the House?
We'd had a lot of work to do on it. For example, take the tax credit. They talked about a refundable tax credit ranging from $2,000 to $4,000. Clearly, that needed a lot of work because we would have had to increase that tax credit so you could actually go out and buy a policy. And going to Joe's point, meaning bringing down where you start phasing out so you can increase that tax credit to a higher level and then have it a function of both income and age, and then maybe start phasing it out at $50,000, have it phased out at $75,000, increase it so somebody could actually buy a policy. That's one side. The other side is you've got to make the transition from the Medicaid expansion work. Okay? And so the House was talking about two options. They were talking about a block grant or a per capita block grant. But then you've got to have some other features to make sure that the states can actually transition and that people have access to coverage, whether that's through the Medicaid piece or through the refundable tax credit piece. Remember, the key is you've got to make sure people have access to health insurance. That's the key. They have to have that access. And that's the transition. And if you can start to make that transition, then now getting back to Republicans and Democrats. So he says, well, you know, he just won't repeal. Republicans say they have to repeal. He says, oh, it's got to be repaired. Republicans say, well, it can't be repaired. It's got to be repealed. So somehow we've got to get past that issue and start to work together.
The word access.
But Ron, they talked about access. We've always had access. Yeah. You know how we used access before we had any health care? Emergency room. You know how a working poor used it? Yeah. Workers' comp.
But that's not what we mean by access.
We use it at the most expensive delivery point that we had, and it wasn't working.
I want to move on.
As a governor, we end up paying.
Right, but that's not what we're talking about, access. Somebody going to the emergency room. We're talking about making sure they have access to health insurance they can actually afford.